And lahat ng nasa gilid na yan, hindi ko man sila lahat ma-pinpoint, those are the apostles. Siyempre wala si Judas dito.
Hello mga ka-senior, today we are here at the Manila Cathedral, the biggest and the premier church in the Philippines. And today we are visiting its crypt. We are going underground and we will be exploring what we can see beneath the Manila Cathedral. This is a tour organized by the Renacimiento Manila, and we're very excited to show you what the hidden secret of Manila Cathedral. So let's go!
Also started at 9 o'clock. However, since we're coordinating with the Manila Cathedral, they informed us that they had an activity by 9 o'clock, which may lead to us not being able to access the crypt. The reason for that is today is the birthday or birth anniversary of Jaime Cardinal Sin. And welcome to our Intramuros Heritage Walk. Brought to you by Renacimiento Manila. So Renacimiento Manila is a cultural organization dedicated to the promotion of the history and culture of Manila. And we do various activities to do that. No? We have recreations of the lost cityscape of Manila through 3D modeling. We do exhibits, lectures. No? But one of our most known activities are the heritage walks. The rationale behind the walks is you combine the power of tourism and educating people on the spot, no? Bringing them in contact with their history. Usually we do this in areas that are not so touristy, such as Quiapo, Ampaloc, Tondo, San Nicolas. Binondo, it's a bit tourist, but we cover areas that are not too known, no, by the tourist foot traffic. But we sometimes hold this walk, the Intramuros Heritage Walk, with the notion to introduce people to, of course, the very heart of the city of Manila, the walled city itself. No? And in doing so, we try to add some value in it by, for example, tapping the Manila Cathedral so we could enter or access the facilities. Usually they do that only on June 12th during open house, where we could go nuts inside the Manila Cathedral, explore the structure itself, but most of the time you have to request. So we've been granted special access from the crypt up to the roof deck, of course, of the Manila Cathedral, so long as we have the strength to open the door in the roof deck. So Intramuros, no, not necessarily all the places that we'll visit. This is the old route, and this is the walled city of Intramuros. 64 hectares enclosed by 4.5 kilometers of walls, no, built of adobe, which came initially from Makati, what is now Guadalupe. No? So this entire area was simply known as Manila during the Spanish period. Everything outside either was a separate town like Binondo or Quiapo, or areas like Malate and Santa Ana, or they were suburbs, the Arabales or the Extramuros area. It was known only as Manila, but by the American period, it started to be more popularly known as Intramuros. The name meaning intra, within, muros, the walls, referring to the walled city. You could also see pictures from the American period where they captured it as just WC, referring to the walled city. Within Intramuros, you will have the institutions of government by the Spaniards, later even the Americans, and you have the church. No? Most dominating feature of Intramuros were its churches. There were 7 major churches in Intramuros alone. That does not include the chapels, at least 8 chapels, all over the entire city, monasteries, and schools, one of which was the University of Santo Tomas, which stood just behind this building before. So this is the Ayuntamiento. We'll get to know it more later. Okay, so in front of you is the Manila Cathedral. Officially, it's known as the Minor Basilica of the Immaculate Conception and Metropolitan Cathedral of Manila. So the church was established in 1571. When it was established, it was the Church of Manila. But going back to 1571, this entire area would have been very swampy. The only firm area would be the one near Fort Santiago, because that's where the city of Manila actually started, the original Maynila of Raja Sulaiman. But in this swampy area, Miguel Lopez de Legazpi, the Spanish conqueror of Manila, drew up a grid similar to this, and assigned each of these parcels of land to churches, establishments, and the main square, the plaza. Based on the decree of King Philip II, where you have a plaza, that's where you'll find the church, center of power of the government, the tribunal, the hospital. So he arranged it in that fashion. So he assigned this plot for the Church of Manila. Didn't take 10 years before this would become the seat of the first independent, it was actually a suffragan, or still a bit attached, diocese from Mexico. Because up until 1579, we were governed church with matters of the church from Mexico, Mexico City. Imagine your bishop is in Mexico City. So in 1579, the Diocese of Manila was created. Later, the Archdiocese of Manila. And that's actually when the life of the cathedral started as a cathedral. People sometimes mistake na porket malaking simbahan, halimbawa, mas higanting simbahan, cathedral yan. No, that's actually a misconception. A cathedral is a specific church where a bishop holds mass, or basically that's where you find their office. No? So a cathedral comes from the word cathedra, which means throne or seat. And inside you'll see the seat of the Archbishop of Manila. The Manila Cathedral has risen and fallen several times, burned, decayed, destroyed by earthquakes in the past 450 years. What you're looking at today is the 8th version of the Manila Cathedral with the outer walls of the 7th pre-war Manila Cathedral. So, looking at the details, the design of the cathedral is known as Neo-Romanesque or Byzantine inspired. So there's a bit of Roman and Byzantine, or basically Roman influences in it. It's part of the revival movements. You have the Neo-Gothic of the Victorian period. Look at Big Ben, or the clock tower of Big Ben, for example. So that's Neo-Gothic. San Sebastian is Neo-Gothic, meaning it's no longer built in the Gothic period, but it's a new interpretation of it. So this is Neo-Byzantine. But according to its architect, who were priests, it's Neo-Byzantine with tropical flourishes, like those pineapples over there. But the Romans don't have that. So, pineapple vineyards. You'll see them up close later, and you get to see how big they are, or how small. And at the facade, you have that rose window. We'll see that up close later. And then, the 6 images, made of travertine stone from Italy. So, the 2 images on top is Santa Rosa de Lima, one of the patroness of the Philippines. And on the right side, you have Santiago Mayor, or St. James, who is the patron of Spain. The 4 images at the bottom, the one we'll see later when we go closer, you have San Andres with the cross that's literally a cross. He's the patron saint of the city of Manila. His feast day is November 30. You know Andres Bonifacio, his birthday is November 30, hence his name Andres Bonifacio. The reason he's the patron of Manila was because on November 30, 1574, the city of Manila was almost conquered by a Chinese pirate named Limahong. It was on that day, and at the very gates of what was then still the wooden Fort Santiago, that Limahong was defeated. So, before we celebrated Manila's birthday, which is June 24, the city celebrated November 30 more. Next to him, you have Saint Polycarp, San Antonio Abad, or Saint Anthony the Hermit. And on his foot, there's actually a small pig. So these are part of the iconography of the statue. You get to know the saints based on what they have, what they hold. So he's a hermit and he has a pig by his foot. Next to him is Saint Polycarp. So the reason San Antonio Abad is there is because south of Manila, there's a fort within the compound of what is now the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, which is dedicated to San Antonio Abad. And it's the first line of defense of Manila in case of an invasion. So it's a protection. So those two are invocations of protection of the city. Next to that, you have Saint Polycarp or San Policarpio, who was the first saint to have a relic brought to the Manila Cathedral. And on the very right side, you'll see it later, is San Francisco Javier, or Saint Francis Xavier, a Jesuit missionary who spread the Catholic faith in the Asia Pacific, or the Asia region. And he's there because in the 1600s, the Pope, one of the archbishops of Manila, dedicated the ships coming in under his protection. So having said that, we'll now get a bit closer to the facade. And I want you to take in the immensity of the church. You know? Patroness of the church is, of course, the Immaculate Conception. So the Immaculate Conception, or the devotion to the Immaculate Conception, actually started early in the Philippines. And it was actually spread by missionaries in order to educate the Indias, the Filipinas, into the values that they believed were the ones that needed to be known by the natives. Because native women didn't wear anything, they usually bathed with the men, and that scandalized the missionaries. So as a way of showing them good Christian values, they spread the devotion to the Immaculate Conception as a tool of educating people about chastity, purity, and these values. So that even before it became official dogma by the 1800s, there was already a large number of parishes here dedicated to the Immaculate Conception. Even to this day, you have December 8th, which has been declared a holiday, which is the Feast of the Immaculate Conception. On the portals of the cathedral, you have the story of the church. From its establishment in 1571, that's Miguel Lopez de Legazpi, the sword, the conqueror of Manila. Then it was destroyed by an earthquake, reconsecrated, destroyed by an earthquake, destroyed by fire, and gathering offerings for the reconstruction of the church. Another gathering for the offerings actually goes like that. And then its destruction during World War II. So that's the angel of death sweeping through the city of Manila. These are the innocents, the burning cathedral in the background. And if you notice this man, his chest, his stomach is split to symbolize the death and carnage of the Battle of Manila. This door was created in the 1950s during the reconstruction of the church, and it was done in Italy. So, the marble on the floor that we'll see later also came from Italy. So we'll get more of that later. So without further ado, we'll now enter the cathedral itself. Of course, just a few reminders, we may take photos again, videos, we may do so, but we have to remove our hats as a show of respect for the place of worship. This is Sydney. In 1818, in time for the 60th anniversary of the reconstruction of the Manila Cathedral. It shows the timeline of the construction of the cathedral from 1571, different events that have happened until its reconstruction. So you may visit it later, so open to the public, but to point out some important highlights, this is how the cathedral looked like from 1751 until the 1850s. So this cathedral stood for 100 years. Its style is Baroque. Before it, neoclassical. Maybe you have these columns, Roman-inspired, for classical order. And interestingly, this painting of the cathedral, or this version, was also the first version to be photographed. This is part of the oldest photograph of the Philippines. They're actually daguerreotypes. And it shows the Manila Cathedral, same cathedral as it would have looked. Sadly, this cathedral was destroyed in the earthquake of 1863. This cathedral was damaged in 1852. So, they renovated the facade into a neoclassical version, which was sadly destroyed in the earthquake of 1863. That's the bell tower, which dates from the 1600s, which looked like the bell tower of the Binondo Church, survived. And afterwards, they built the new Romanesque cathedral. But this picture actually captures it from the 1879-1880 because in 1880 another earthquake hit the city, destroying the bell tower. So until it was destroyed in World War II, the cathedral did not have a bell tower. It did have its bells. The bells were brought down and placed on large wooden beams in the plaza in one corner of the town. And in the 1950s, was rebuilt. There were actually plans to move this cathedral to Mandaluyong.
After the war, the host was decimated. From a city with 16,000 population was down to 900 by 1949. So they planned to move the cathedral. Luckily, the voice of Rufino Cardinal Santos won the day, and the cathedral built here is a testament to the faith. The triumph of faith over the destruction of war. Some remnants of the old cathedral include the walls, and in this gallery of this saints. So, nakita naman nila sa unahan yung mga pagawang statue. Yung sa unang panahon, ang mas nilalagay yung kahoy ng mga statue. Ito yung advertising. Most probably, there were the four advantages of Peter and Paul. Malaki pa na. Before we leave here, Malaki. And ito naman yung architectural plans or versions or drafts. Yung manilivision of Peter Pan. Just to give you an idea of Roman Byzantine. Very familiar with this style of shape. Here you should see that villas, Rome, or basilicas. Ayun, sometimes, kailangan ito. Are the archbishops of the agency Michael Burr, the last American Archbishop of Manila, Gabriel Reyes, the first Filipino Archbishop of Manila, Cardinal Rufino Cardinal Santos, and then Cardinal Jaime Cardinal, and siya na yung so they were that's what you say. That you say shows the Calvary, you see the Calvary, the pietism, and it's all in the cross. So today, kaya may mass, usually binubuksan naman yun. Usually kaya may mass kasi nga, may birth anniversary at may Cardinal and may Cardinal Saints. Yung nakalala sa Cardinal Saints, that medyo mas matabat na. Sabi nga may population error, things like that. So kung them yun, kasi sabi nga may Cardinal Saints, ang nation, republic na questionable democracy, is bankrupt, walang moral basis to stand basis. And then, yung people power, patay na dapat si Ramos si Enrique. Hindi na natin ginagawang views ngayon si Enrique. Kung hindi siya umapay na kay Cardinal Saints. And Cardinal Saints called out to the people. Paano sinira ng militaryo yung Padre Veritas transmitters at ang voice of the Cardinal Saints. These people, si Ramos and their group are with us. If you want to support them, you may proceed to Pampang, and people were pansin natin mga dahil mga images, photos, as a way of being pent up anger after decades. So, malaki yung role ni Cardinal. See, toppling that victory. So, today, he's being remembered. So, may mass na and cruciform after we have one part here, another part also here. Mukha siyang cross. This one is the sunset. The sunset. It means this is the apse. The dulo. So that's the side for the this is the main body of the church. These are the side aisles. And these are the chapels. On top of crossing, you have either crossing tower or in this case, the dome. The dome naman in the cathedral only started in sa KP version. 1750s. Square pa yun. 1600, by the 1800s, naging round. And bakit may dome yung mga cathedral? Usually St. Peter's, for example. Because it's an encapsulation of the heavens. No? Parang it's a connection to the heavens, to the realm. And itong space sa ilalim na ito, this actually reserved for the laying in state of bishops or archbishops. Mamatay yung archbishop, dito nilalagay yung catafalque ng kanyang patungan o katawan. Although, may mga binuwag na dito ng mga secular personages, such as the former President Corazon Aquino. So dito, ginawa yung kanyang laying in state. Yung pila nun nakapat. Yung para pumunta at makalapit sa kanyang katawan. And sa ibabaw, makita niyo may dalawang nakasabit. Ang hindi ba pag it's actually a gallery. So yung sombrero na look. This is one of the and the reason it's there is the way for authentication we always have them in prayer. So parang praying with important men. Nandiyan din nila. And we mentioned earlier na isang katedral ay seat ng isang bishop. Literally, nandun yung seat na isang bishop. This is the cathedral or the seat of the bishop of Manila. This is the pre-postwar version. And this entire complex was designed by Fernando Ocampo. Same architect, no, Calvo building sa Escolta, at saka ng San Fernando Cathedral. No? So, actually, it was Kapampangan. And he designed basically in the classical style, yung kanyang style of architecture. And he blended the Pope pre-war elements but added Pope modern elements with respect to the architecture. Using cement, yung walls, nanipis na yun. And he was able to create this modern edifice. Wala dati yung wireless, so inad lahat yan. The dome was bigger, squatter, rounded. Ngayon, ano na siya, mas maganda. So, actually, na-access yun sa taas. Pero pag tinry niyo kung sa ganyan naman churches, nakakaluma. Kasi you're able to go sa simbahan ng packing. Bigyan lang ng actor. Tawid ka sa bigger ng simbahan. Silip mo dyan. Kasi walang column sa ilalim. So, space na dito nasa. Church of the Retablo. Okay, that time wala ng Retablo. What it has is a baldachin. Awang sa Vatican. Baldachin. Like, ano. The major is the bronze image of the Immaculate Conception. That's bronze. Nung unang bukas yung Manila Cathedral, walang kulay na. Dinagdag na lang siya. Diba kasi parang weirdly na bronze lang siya. So eventually, nilagyan siya polychrome finish or colored. And sa likod niya, yung Mustang glass. Notice na, kung tayo tagal sa likod yung Immaculate Conception, wala natin. Nung pag-release ka drawing yun, dito dapat yung glass. Kaya dinagdag yun. Kasi lumindol noong 1968, yung kasiguhan earthquake, nag-crack yung baldachin. So, reinforced. Beautiful ones. And it shows the journey of Italy when you galing. So you have Jesus, St. John the Baptist baptizing Jesus in the waters of the River Jordan. Dati dito siya. Not sure kung nagamit pa pala siya. Kasi minsan madami na ngayon eh. So hindi na sapat dabig sa paisa-isa. So doon na usually ginagawa yung mga baptisms. And dito, yan yung mga relics ng mga saints. Yung cabinets na yun. So actually, mayroon dedication na mga chapel na yun. There's one for the dead, the chapel of the souls. Yung malaking chapel sa gilid, that was for Christ. It's for risen Christ. And then, dati yung chapel ng Maynila. Ngayon kasi hindi na ito yung parish of Manila. Ang parish of the city of Manila is San Agustin. Nalipat mo. Kasi nasira itong gold. Dati, Manila Cathedral. Yun yung sagrado ng Manila Cathedral. Yung mga ganun centuries old feature of architecture, no? Which reflected long history. Hindi na so far. I mean, Archdiocese again. Another interpretation of it. Yan na rin, pinetoke na yan. Yan na kasi talaga yung mas more na. Kasi from 1945 to 1950, pinabandon na lang yung ruins sa cathedral. In fact, nag-field trip yung mga bata sa ruins of the Manila Cathedral during that time. Most of Intramuros was in ruins. Muntik na ipa-demolish yung city government. Na-spare siya kasi nga sabi ng Manila Cathedral, hindi re-reconstruct namin na. Sadly, the other churches weren't saved. So, dinabolish yung mga churches. Yung ruins sa Santo Domingo, all of those, they were standing until 1959. Mas dinabolish na siya. Yun na, the city government, for security reasons and safety reasons, ay hindi ba pila na-squatter? So, ginika. Centuries old churches. Mapapa-appreciate. So, siyempre, pag nasa choir of God, dito yung kumakanta yung choir o yung coro. And behind me is the pipe organ ng Manila Cathedral. So, the largest in the country in Southeast Asia. I think nasa ano to? More than 3,000. Conservative pa yun, na pipes that you see there. Kasi yung pipes yan, hindi lang ito nakikita nyo sa harap. Meron pa yan sa ikot. Marami nakalimutan na tayo ng organ, yung Casio na organ. Pero iba rin yung tunog nito. So, ginagamit pa ito talaga kapag may mga misa. Yung sa San Agustin sa atin, hindi na. Electric na yung kanilang organ. Or special occasions sila. But this one, bago siya, no? Active pa siya. And it is from here, kita-kita nyo yung main bottom.
Ayun ang pineapple.
Ingat po kayo, sir.
May mga Filipino elements. These are pineapples. Dami pala. Oh, marami pala. Up more.
Kita natin features dito. Dito tayo nag-discuss. Usually nag-discuss pa kami sa lower area. Pero kasi under renovation yung bell tower, so delikado may mga scaffolds noon. But from here, nakita nyo dun yung malaking pinya. Yung nasa baba, parang liit nun. No? Kasi laki ng tao yun actually, yung mga pinya na yun. And, dito nyo may makikita gano'ng kalaki yung mga saints. So, more than life size sila. Yung pineapples, laging tanong yun, bakit may pinya yung Manila Cathedral? Well, sabi kasi nung architect, ever since, so when tinayo yung cathedral, inspiration niya was, of course, Byzantine architecture, but with the flair of the tropics. Ibig sabihin, introducing some elements from the Philippines. At yung isang yun ay yung pinya. Marami ng interpretations yung pinya. So let me give you na lang yung sinabi ng Manila Cathedral. More modern naman to, the interpretation. So, ano bang interpretation yon? According to them, kaya ang pinya yon because it symbolizes Jesus Christ. Bakit? Pineapple, una, ang pinya ay isang valuable na fruit. Kasi noong unang panahon, ang pinya nilalagay sa gitna ng piging yun, hindi para kainin, display. Kasi symbol of wealth, yung pinya. During a time na hindi pa tonelada yung pinya na ginagawa ng dole. Yung mga mahal pa talaga yung mga pineapples. Usually, kaya, di ba may mga tradition tayo na may pinya sa gitna? That's a sign of extravagance kasi dati, uy, mayaman ako, may pinya ako. No? So, that's one. Kalawa, kaya siya Jesus Christ. Ang pinya, pag in-harvest mo siya, pwede mong putulin yung taas niya, tapos pag tinanim mo yun, susibol yun ulit bilang panibagong pinya. Parang si Jesus Christ, yung rebirth. Yun yung sinasabi nila. Sino? Kung may tanong, sabihin nyo, yun yung po yung galing sa Manila Cathedral. Kanila po yung building. So, baka mas tama yung interpretation. And dito, kitang-kita natin medyo up close yung pinakamataas na feature ng Manila Cathedral, which is belfry ng Manila Cathedral. Ever since, kinayo yung cathedral, around 1600s, nagkaroon na siya ng bell tower. Ito yung picture niya. Ano ba yung natutunog? Siya yung tumutunog. Siya yun actually. Kala matao City Hall yung tumutunog. Actually siya yun. But Manila Cathedral. So let's just search for war. Or no, 1879. Bago nasira ng 1880 earthquake. Itong bell tower na nasa picture na yan is believed to have stood from the 1600s, after the 1645 earthquake, until destroyed noong 1879. Kaya baroque yung style niya. Pero iba na yung style ng katabi niya. No? Noong unang tinayo yung bell tower, nakahiwalay siya sa cathedral for reasons of earthquakes. Para kung masisira yung bell tower, hindi matatamaan yung cathedral. And nangyari ngayon, ito yung sa picture ng 1880, no, nasira siya. It collapsed on its own. So, nakahiwalay siya. Kung nasan ngayon yung parang cafe, di ba mayroon dyan cafe sa baba? Mamaya may kami square dyan na belfry, na ground belfry. Doon siya dati nakatayo. After the war, dinikit siya dito. And since concrete na, hindi na gumagamit ng adobe, facing na lang ito. So, sa ilalim nito, may part ng pre-war na cathedral. Pero yung bell tower, wala. Ano talaga yan? Semento yan, hanggang taas, no? So, they were able to build something taller. Pero look at the top. Ito yun. So, ang ginawa ng Fernando Campo, hinapaan niya yung shaft ng bell tower. Pero yung pinakataas, takes inspiration from the pre-war bell tower. Hindi ka pre-war, Spanish era bell tower. And it has a clock, which is working. You set your alarm to it. Kami mga empleyado ng gobyerno, pag nabig namin yung bell, ano na oras? Lunch. Pag tumutunog na yung Ave Maria. Yung ano pala, Salve Regina. Yan. Tapos, yung bells na narinig nyo, tawag doon ay carillon. Singing bells. No? So, kaya yun, ting, nagtumutugtog yan pag lunchtime. Narinig nyo yan, no? And during 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, tumutugtog yung bells ng Manila Cathedral. Meron siyang malalaking bells for big occasions. Dumating nga Santo Papa, malaking fiesta. Nandun sa baba yun, sa may cafe. Kaya sabi na, ginagamit pa ba yun? Yes. Pero wala pa kasing occasion ngayon na kailangan siya. So, if ever dumating Santo Papa, hindi nyo magagamit yung cafe na yun. Kasi patutugtugin yung mga kampana. And sabi nung nandun na staff dati, kasi nung na-interview ko sila, wala pa yung cafe. Souvenir shop pa siya. Pag ganun daw, aalisin lahat ng gamit. Kasi pag pinatugtog mo na yung kampana, nagundong daw talaga yun. The reason they're there and not here, hindi kaya nitong bell tower sustain yung weight ng ganong kalalaking bells. Yun actually yung problem ng Manila Cathedral noon. Tumbahin yung bell, yung mga ano niya. Medyo natutumbay loob nung structurally unsound. Mirakulo nga nag-survive ng 300 years yung bell tower. Kasi yung foundation ng cathedral. Mula doon. Pag hindi, pas yan.
looks like a flower. At ano yung mga symbols yan? Ano ba yung symbols niya? In the middle, ang tawag dyan is yung Chiron. No? Yan yung sabi nila, kilala nila ba si Constantine the Great? Constantine, during one of the civil wars ng Rome, kasi madami sila civil wars, he was trying to unite under his crown, the entire Roman Empire. And hindi siya Christian. He was a pagan, like most Romans. But in the day before the battle, according to him, nagpakita sa kanya yung symbol niya, yung P-X. Chi? Oo. Yung Chi, yung P, parang P. Yung Chi is ganyan. So, Chi, parang X. No? Parang Christus. Di ba yung sabihin nila? Tapos na nakalagay doon is yung in Foxigna Vinci. No? By this sign, you will conquer. And thus, eventually, di man siya na-convert immediately to Christianity, he would tolerate and give Christianity much freedom under his rule because he attributed his victory kay Christ. So that's the symbol of Christ. And lahat ng nasa gilid na yan, hindi ko man sila lahat ma-pinpoint, those are the apostles. Siyempre wala si Judas. Meron silang pinalit kay Judas, si Matias. Nung napakante na yung seat, may dinagyan sila isa. Ang isa si Jesus, ay si Peter, yung cross piece. Diba? Give you the peace. Sure. Kaya sila, according sa Roman Catholic tradition, ang first pope ay si Peter, San Pedro. And di ba symbol dyan kasi, aside from the peace, pati sword, pintulan ng ulo yan. Yung mga symbol of martyrdom. So yan ang 12 yan. Mga apostles. Praise. And Jesus. Take focus. Did you last part? Hindi yan ang kulay niya nung una siyang binuksan. Ang bubong namin, inano mo siya, na-expose sa elements, nagkakaroon siya ng coating which protects itself. Kaya yung mga bronze monuments, nagiging green. Ang Statue of Liberty, for example. Same with that. So, copper yan. Yung likod niyan, makikita may black. Kasi nung bagyong Milenyo, according to the people around it, nung bagyong Milenyo, natanggal yung mga copper sheets. Alam mo yung ginawa ng mga tao? Binakal. so binakal nila kasi ang lalaking sheets, copper. Isipin mo yung nakukuha mong copper sa kawad ng kuryente. Ito, isang tipak. So, mababa pa appreciation ng mga tao. Again, mababa pa appreciation nila. No? It's on us people na nakaunawa nun para educate din sila. No? Hindi lang condemnation. Basta-basta. Kahoy yan. No? Kahit yung dome kahoy. And alam natin na kahoy yung dome. Kasi, pag nakita niyo yung ground floor ng Cathedral before, di ba ngayon malalaking mga columns na. Manipis na tiga-apat na column lang. Those columns would never be able to sustain a masonry upper structure. So, kahoy. Most churches had that. Mga bell towers na gawa sa lalaking biga ng kahoy. So, yun yung craftsmanship na nawala na in modern time. It's under reconstruction, not as a church, but as a museum. Yan yung Centro de Turismo, Intramuros. Katabi niyan yung Museo de Intramuros. Before, that was the Jesuit Church of San Ignacio. San Agustin, further that way. And then, mula doon sa kabilang side kanina, may building doon na parang orange, makikita nyo, parang flesh building. BIR na yun today. That used to be the site ng Santo Domingo Church. So, from the top of the cathedral noon, kita mo yung 7 simbahan na Intramuros. Except siguro yung Recoletos, kasi nasa likod siya, so yung malayong side. Yung Manila Bulletin. So 7 churches. No?
That's where the Archbishop of Manila stays. And white, that's where the Archbishop of Manila nag-stay siya.
But I noticed, meron din kaya
Plaza Roma. So pinalitan yung pangalan niya noong 1960s dahil it was during that time na naging cardinal si Rufino Santos. Kaya pag naging cardinal sila, sinisingit yung title doon sa name, Rufino Cardinal Santos. No? So nung naging cardinal siya, it's a way of showing our gratitude sa Rome. Pinalitan natin yung pangalan ng main square sa harap ng cathedral after Rome, kung saan makikita yung Vatican City. Okay? But before that, ang pangalan nitong plaza na ito was Plaza Mayor or Main Square. Pwede ring Plaza del Gobierno, yung isang dating tinatawag din sa kanya. Nung American era, pinalitan yung pangalan niya to Plaza McKinley. No? Until 1960s yun ang pangalan. Plaza McKinley. After President William McKinley. Ito yung tsura niya nung plaza before. Yan. So, yun yung cathedral. So, dito po tayo sa shade. Yan. So, ito yung cathedral. Ito yung government buildings and yung plaza. Mapansin nyo na wala pa siyang kapuno-puno. Kasi actually, no 1600s, barren tong area na to. May patsi-patsi lang ng damo dyan, buhangin. Ang silbi kasi ng plaza ay gathering area for activities, mga posisyon, other religious festivities, at kung ano pang mga pwede mga parada, yan, dito ginagawa sa plaza. Yun actually yung silbi nung reorganization ng mga communities during the Spaniards. Nasa plaza yung nasa gitna, you have the church, yung tribunal, yung munisipyo o yung Casa Real kung tawagin. Minsan, pag syudad, may hospital malapit dyan. So, yung Manila as the capital city, ito yung pinakamahalagang plaza sa buong bansa noong panahon na yan. In the middle, may monument. May monument. This was 1847. Ito yun. Yung monument na yun. Monument to... Sino yan?
Carlos the Fourth.
Yes. May dati may cheat code doon, kaso inaayos kasi ng IA yung mga markers. So, itim lang. So this is a monument to King Carlos IV or King Charles IV of Spain. No? So bakit nandyan yung monumento ng Espanya? Bakit hindi pa natin naalis yung monument ng isang hari ng Espanya? Well, kaya hindi natin siya naalis kasi doon sa reason bakit nandyan yung monument na yan to begin with. Noong early 1800s, inauthorize ni King Carlos IV yung pagpapadala na isang medical expedition from Spain, the Balmis Medical Expedition. At ano yung dala niya? Ang dala nila was yung bakuna laban sa smallpox. Yung smallpox, hindi siya chickenpox. Yung smallpox, mas delikado siya. Yung to the point na, nung na-introduce yun ng mga Kastila, inadvertently, initially hindi nila alam na dala nila, na sa mga natives ng America na walang defense against smallpox, large populations ang na-wipe out. No? Mga siguro 80% ng Native Americans ang namatay. Millions dahil sa smallpox. Napaka-deadly niyang disease. And isa actually sa mga kapatid ni Carlos IV ay namatay sa smallpox. Kaya meron siyang parang, hindi bang galit? Parang magalit sa sakit. Meron siyang, may personal siyang interest bakit gusto niya magkaroon ng prevention against it. By the 1700s, meron ng bakuna. At then, pakamatanda na siya, wait lang, wala pang ref nun. Wala pang injection nun. Paano magdadali ng bakuna? Well, kung masakit para sa inyo ang bakunahan ngayon, mas masakit dati. No? Yung tsura ng bakuna nun, ang gagawin nila, para ikalat yun, i-infectionan nila yung mga bata. Yung mga bata ngayon, ang magiging carriers living carriers ng vaccine. Sasakay mo yung mga bata sa barko, punta yung mga barko from Spain, punta ng Mexico. From Mexico, may pumunta ng Latin America. And from Mexico, may pumunta ng Pilipinas. Initially, orphans. Minsan, mga bata lang talaga na kasama yung mga gulang nila. No? Pagdating dito, syempre, yung Simbahang Katolika pinaka-tutol initially dun sa vaccine. Kasi hindi nga alam ano to, nung experiment nung ginagawa. So, to remove doubts, yung pamilya mismo ng Governor General, yung unang-unang nagpapakuna laban sa smallpox. Paano yung application niya? Kukunin mula dun sa, ang blood extraction siya. Kukunin sa dugo ng mga bata yung vaccine. Didistill siya. Tapos yun ngayon, ilalagay sa tao. Ang gagawin siya ito paste form. Tapos, hihiwaan ka. Tapos, papahid yun sa loob. Hiwa enough para pumasok siya sa katawan mo. No? So, sabi ko kasi, kung masakit ang bakuna ngayon, mas masakit talaga dati. Kaya takot yung mga tao magpapakuna, hiwain ka pa. So, pero maraming napapakunahan. And eventually, yung copy ng bakuna na yun, surviving copy niya, ay pinamopagate siya at tinago doon sa City Hall ng Maynila, which is that building over there. No? So as a way of showing gratitude to the king, tinayo tong monument na to noong 1820s. No? It has witnessed earthquakes, revolutions, wars, no? And for a time, inalis yan. Sino na nakapunta sa harap ng National Museum? Nakita niyo ba doon yung monument ng Gumboza? Yung may monument yun, sa Bogos, yun, na may fountain. Dati nandito yun. No 1960s, inalis siya. Inalis to, nilipat yun dito. Pero no 1981, binalik ng IA, na Intramuros Administration, kasi sabi nila, gusto natin ibalik yung character ng place. So nilagay ulit si Carlos IV. Alright? So that's the reason nandyan siya. Hanggang ngayon, nakaturo pa rin sa Manila Cathedral. Manila, o yung Casas Consistoriales, meaning City Hall. Yan ang City Hall ng Maynila. Hindi natin kilala sino yung mga mayors dati ng Manila. Bakit? Hindi naman mahalaga dati yung mga mayor. Ang mahalaga is yung Cabildo, the City Council. Sino ba gumagawa ng mga batas? City Council, di ba? Kaya mas mahalaga dati yung City Council during the Spanish period. Since the 1600s, nandyan yung City Hall ng Maynila. Yung nasa painting na ito, this was from the 1700s na building. Kaso nasira siya ng earthquake. So when they rebuilt it, ito yung itsura niya, no? And nung winibuild siya, tinawag siya na Marble Palace. Kasi sa loob ng building, yung grand staircase niya, may grand hall siya, marble, yung ginamit nila sa flooring, some of the features, may malaking chandeliers from Paris. So napaka-grand niya. To the point na, nung sinakop tayo na Amerika, dito rin nila nilagay yung office ng Governor General. And nung 1907, dyan unang nag-convene, no? After their ceremonial session sa may Santa Cruz, dun sa may dating Grand Opera House, dito yung mga sessions ng Philippine Assembly. Yung ating magiging lolo ng Philippine Congress. Later, nandyan yung Philippine Senate magsisimula. So imagine that building. Diyan pumapasok yung mga luminaries kagaya nila Osmeña, nila Quezon, yung mga mambabatas na ngayon, mga pangalan na lang ng kalye. Dati, dyan sila. They held office there, they gathered there, and tried their best to push Philippine interests kasi pwedeng i-veto ng Governor General na Amerikano yung mga pinopropose dyan. Noong 1920s, umalis dyan ang Congress. Saan siya lumipat? Doon sa may National Museum na ngayon, National Museum of Fine Arts. Ang pumalit dito ay yung Supreme Court naman ng Pilipinas. Until World War II, nandiyan yung Philippine Supreme Court. Kaya yung paligid dati ng plaza, puro law offices. Andyan yung NBI, mamaya tadaanan natin kung saan nag-start yung investigation department. Tapos, yung mga municipal court, nandito lahat sa paligid. So, nasira yan, naging parking lot yan na matagal. Tapos, nung 2000s, rinibuild siya. Today, it houses the offices of the Bureau of the Treasury. And on special occasion, napapasok yung loob niya. Dati, nag-aalaw sila ng tours sa loob at nag-aalaw sila ng turista. Kaso, depende kasi sa mga treasurers. Pag yung nakaupong treasurer ay ayaw ng additional, kumbaga na cost din yun kasi at saka isipin sa kanila. So, sinangan nila sa public. So, ngayon, may museum yan actually sa loob na walang nakakakita. Nandyan lang yung museum na yan. But who knows, maybe in due time, mag-warm up din yung treasury to open once again the doors of the Ayuntamiento. Not just the City of Manila, one of the cradles, no, ng Philippine modern democracy. Tirahan, yung palace ng mga governors general. Today, offices na yan ng Intramuros Administration on the 5th floor and kasama ng IA dyan ang Commission on Elections. Dati yung Bureau of the Treasury, nandyan din. Pero most of the offices land dito na lahat sa Ayuntamiento. It became a condominium. That's actually a condominium. Pero hindi siya yung residential condominium office, government office condominium building. Official name niyan is Palacio del Gobernador Condominium Corporation. Yun yung may-ari. That was the residence of the Governors General. Anong itsura ng palasyo ng gobernador? Based sa painting, ito siya, no? This was how it looked bago nasira noong 1863 yung palace. The first palace ng Governor General ay dun malapit sa Fort Santiago, yung Palacio Real, o Royal Palace, kung tawagin. Ang problem was, noong 1645 lumindol. So nasira yung palace.
Ngayon, wala matiran yung Governor General, siya titira. Pinatira muna siya dun sa ospital, yung Hospital Real, which is yung Chowking ngayon. Yan yung Royal Hospital dati. Yan, buong lote na yan. Hospital Real. Yun yung pinakaunang ospital sa Pilipinas. Nag-start siya sa Cebu, 1565, tapos lumipat dyan, 1571. So, dyan muna yung Governor General. Eventually, in 1863, nasira siya. Yung plan was, habang hindi pa siya na-rebuild, temporary natin lalagay yung Governor General sa isang summer house ng pag-aari ng gobyerno. Saan kaya yung summer house na yun? Sa may Malacanang, no? Temporary yun, dapat. And then the Spaniards started to rebuild. However, walang budget, magulo na yung period na yun kasi Philippine Revolution na. So hindi natapos yung project. When the Americans arrived, wala silang incentive to rebuild yung palace dito. So, doon na lang sila nagstay sa Malacanang. Eventually, lilipas, magkakagera, masisira ang Intramuros. And then, noong 1970s, tinayo itong building. Ito yung building na dahilan, kaya may batas to protect Intramuros. Para hindi na magkaroon ng ganyan ulit. No? Noong 1975, habang tinatayo siya, nakita ni Dr. Jaime Laya, who was head ng Central Bank noong time na yun, na may construction dito. He was a heritage advocate and a cultural worker himself. Na-horrify siya. So he alarmed Marcos, pinatigil ni Marcos yung construction, Marcos Sr., nagka-meeting, ayaw na ng land bank tigilan yung construction. Kasi kumbaga nag-invest na sila ng pera sa foundation and they were expecting a 12-story building. Dapat 12-story yan, sa taas. Eventually, ang compromise, sige, ganito na lang. Except of 12, gawin na lang nating 8. So, it's lower than the cathedral. Tapos, sabi niya kay Jaime Laya, gumawa ka ng batas that will regulate construction in Intramuros and set other guidelines. Thus was born, noong April 10, 1979, through Presidential Decree 1616, the Intramuros Administration, a national agency which technically is autonomous, kaya Intramuros ay autonomous sa City of Manila. No? Yung mga project ni Yorme, ng mga mayor, hindi lahat yun nakapasok sa loob. Dito, walang power ang mga barangay. Ang may power dito ay Intramuros Administration. Ang barangay, sa mundo ng mga dapat, tagasunod lang. Kaso, kasi nakikita nila sa labas, ba't yung barangay, may ganun-ganun, susubukan ng kopya. Pero ginagano lang na ayaw yun. Kasi nga, national agency ang in charge dito. So, immune siya from yung local politics. Kumbaga, to ensure yung orderly restoration ng Intramuros. Now you may ask, may natira pa ba sa Palacio del Gobernador? Meron. Inuupuan nyo nga siya, So, yan yung foundation stones ng Palacio del Gobernador na nilatag some of it from the 1800s, no? Kasi plano nga ng mga Kastilang itayo ulit nila. So, hindi nila natayo. Yan na siya ngayon. Upuan. So, yeah. When you see stones like that sa Fort Santiago, Puerto Real, San Diego Gardens, yan yun, labi ng palasyo. So, there's history if you know where to look. Okay?